Hello, this is Raymond Moore, and welcome to Wise Talk Radio. If you're listening, I would love for you to click on the share button, let your friends know that we're about ready to kick off a fabulous half an hour of some positive stuff that my expectation is it's going to change your life. So today I want to talk about a topic that it's something that is absolutely needed in any relationship. And I know you may be thinking, well, it could be love, it could be a whole lot of things. But this one ingredient, when you think about it, if it is not part of any relationship, it's not going to work. If you don't make this an essential part of what you do, whether let's say you're married, and if you don't have this one ingredient, you can't expect to have a successful marriage. If you have an alliance, a partnership with an organization, if that particular ingredient is missing, you cannot expect to really succeed. Now, you may be asking me what this ingredient is, and I'm sure as I'm going through this, you may be thinking, well, what are the things that are needed for a successful relationship? What is essential in guaranteeing my success if I enter a relationship? It could be a business partnership. If you don't have this ingredient, and if it's not fostered with your partners, then you can't expect to succeed. You may be dating someone. If this is not there, you can't expect that relationship to last for very long. So I want to share something with you that could give you an idea what I'm talking about, and maybe as we go through this, you can look at your relationships. And as you look at your relationships, ask yourself the question, do I have this essential ingredient? Is it growing in my relationship? Is it growing in my organizations? You may have a small business. You may have a family. You may be part of a sporting organization, and you got to ask yourself the question, is this ingredient there? We've seen scenarios where sports teams will put together marquee players, and they may succeed for a while, but eventually the team breaks up because there's this one element, this one ingredient that is lacking in the organization. And so it doesn't really matter how successful you are as an individual. It doesn't matter how great you are individually. If this particular ingredient is not included in your relationship, in your organization, in your team, then you shouldn't expect to succeed. Because over time, the reality of people's attitudes and behaviors will surface, and the result is going to be failure. The result is going to be the organization breaking up. The result is going to be the marriage not working, not succeeding the way that it should. So, if you recall the story in Genesis chapter 11 in the Bible, it talks about a group of people, they spoke one language, and at some point they decided that they were going to build a tower for themselves. And in building this tower, they decided they wanted to make a name for themselves. And as a result of them building this tower, God said, let me take a look at what they're doing. And so God came down, saw what they were doing, and he confused their language, because he said they are of one mind, they are of the same purpose. And if I don't confuse their language, then there's really nothing that they can accomplish on the earth. So my point is this, I'm not saying speaking the same language simply means you're going to succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, it goes deeper than simply speaking the same language. God realized, and I shouldn't say God realized, but God knew that the key ingredient that these people had harnessed was not that they were going to work together, was not that they were going to build a tower, was not that they were going to make a name for themselves, but more so because they were unified. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you today about unity. What is unity? Unity is the glue that will hold your organization together. Unity is that thing. It doesn't matter how talented you are individually. Doesn't matter how experienced you are. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, how many times you've done it before. If you're not unified, you can expect to fail. Because without unity, everything else falls apart. Your processes may be great. You may have recruited the best talent, but without that key, without unity, even in your marriage, even in your relationship, even in your family, you cannot expect to achieve at your highest level if you lack unity. Now, let me share a story with you. When I was in the military, very early in our training, they wanted us to develop that sense of team unity. And so in order for us to trust each other, they put us on the obstacle course. Now, we were about to undertake this one obstacle, which we call the skyscraper. Now, I want you to picture this. It looks like a skyscraper or the shell of a skyscraper, but really it's like 4 utility poles. They're spread out about 30 feet apart, and it looks like the first floor of a building, the second floor, third. I think there were about 5 floors on this particular building. There were no windows, no doors. All it was about 5 feet off the ground was the second floor, and utility poles, and it was made out completely out of wood. And the second floor was maybe about 6 feet from the third floor is about 6 feet from the second floor, and the fourth floor, as you go higher on the floors, they're further apart. They're not at equal distance as you go up. Now, in our squad, there were 8 people in our squad, and our task was everyone was supposed to get to the top of the 5th floor and then get back down safely. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there were no safety nets. There were no harnesses, no ropes. We had to work together as a team to get to the top of this skyscraper and get back down safely. Now, a couple of things I want to point out to you as I get into this. Our drill sergeant was there yelling and screaming at us, telling us what we couldn't do and how poor we were and how horrible we were, and telling us that the other squads were going to do better than we were going to do and we were going to be punished. First lesson: when you decide to undertake anything that is important, anything that is of real value, you can expect to have detractors. You can expect to have naysayers. You can expect that there are people out there who are going to have a ton of negative things to say about you. You have to decide if the goal that you are about to undertake is important enough to you, is important enough to your life. Is it important? You decide. Because if it isn't, then you're not going to put the time in. When the difficult times come and when the negative people come, you may end up agreeing with them because you weren't serious enough about your goal. So first thing you got to do is make a decision. Make a decision that you're going to succeed. As I'm telling you this story, I want you to apply it to yourself. Remember, we talked earlier that in this year of 2019, this is a year where you will take action. You will take the necessary action to succeed. You will step out. This is not the year to procrastinate. This is not the year to think about it. I'm going to think about it and I'm going to pray about it. Just recently, I heard someone say that one of the issues that she saw with Christians is that when an opportunity comes along, most Christians want to take time out to go pray about it, to go fast about it. And by the way, I am not in any way suggesting that you not fast about it, that you not pray about it, that you not seek the Lord about it. But we want to hear God's voice clearly before we move on anything. But people in the world, people who are not Christians, will see an opportunity, they'll jump on it, they'll succeed, and later on the Christian is still wondering what happened. Well, guess what? The opportunity passed you by. Because if you sit around expecting for the situation to be perfect, expecting that everything will fall in line, Before you take action, what if it doesn't happen? What if nothing is perfect? It'll never be perfect for you to get started if you're going to do your own business. It'll never be perfect for your situation, and all the conditions will never fall in place perfectly so you can get the time to go back to school, to get that certification, to get that degree, to do whatever. It may never be perfect. So you have to decide. Do not be distracted by noise. Just call it noise. When it comes through one ear, let it go through the other. Avoid those type of negative talk when you hear them from people. So there we were, ladies and gentlemen. We were given the go signal, and everybody rushed towards the structure. Now, jumping up 5 feet was pretty easy for everyone, so we all got to the second floor very easily. No problem. Now, one of the things you should take note of where that is concerned is typically when you're in a team, whether it's a team of 2 or more, when the initial task is simple, when the initial task is easy, what people tend to do, they tend to rely on their own independence. No one worked together as a team to get to the second floor because it was fairly easy. Now, I have to tell you a little bit about a few of the team members, and I've changed the name just to protect the innocent, so to speak. One of the members of the squad, his name was Bayako, Augustine Bayako, and like I said, I've changed the names a little bit. Bayako was kind of on the fluffy side. He was a shorter guy, but really strong and not very agile. On the other side, on the extreme side, was a guy by the name of Chalmers. Tall, muscular, very A-type personality, felt like he was Rambo, he could do anything, and he was Mr. Soldier. And then there was another guy who was pretty tall but fairly skinny. His name was McGann. There was myself, and there was a guy by the name of Boyer who was pretty short and skinny and looked like he couldn't lift an ant, but the guy was really strong. So there was always conflict between Chalmers and Bayako because he felt that this guy was a little bit on the chubby side and he needed to get himself together, and Bayako was always very sensitive about his weight. So there was always some conflict between the two of them, and a lot of times the tasks that we did were delayed because there was conflict between these two. But nonetheless, we all got to the second floor pretty easily. It was 5 feet up, so we all just jumped up. Some people climbed up on, grabbed one of the columns, and we got up to the second floor very easily. One of the things I noticed as we went up, the columns were very slippery, because if it's a short person who did it before us, then over time the use of that column made it slippery. Now as we were getting up to the third floor, we're now on the second floor, and we have to lean over to the side to get to the third floor. Now this thing is a little over 6 feet away, and so it became a little bit more difficult to get there. But being from the islands, I climbed up on the side of one of the ropes, or not the ropes, but one of the columns, got to the third floor with a lot of effort. It wasn't as simple as getting to the second floor. Now McGann got to the third floor very easily, and so did Chalmers. Now, Bayako was having a bit of difficulty, and so was Boyer and a couple of the other guys. But eventually we all made it to the third floor. And with a little bit of help and a couple of the other guys leaning over the edge and lending a hand to Bayako, he made it also to the third floor. I noticed something, ladies and gentlemen, as we got to that floor. There was a little bit of interdependence. Now, remember, going from ground level to the second floor, everyone was independent because the task was easy. But as we got to as we're going from the second floor to the third floor, task was a little bit more difficult, and there was some level of interdependence, and some people needed help. Not everyone, but some people needed help. Now, so interdependence then becomes a necessary trait if a team is going to be successful. You cannot expect that the team will succeed if everyone goes off in their own direction and does their own thing, and there's no collaboration, there is no unity. Now remember, what we're talking about here is team unity. Unity whether it's in a team, unity whether it's two people or it's a dozen people. The same dynamics apply. Now here we are on the third floor. We're about to go to the fourth floor, and it's like 8 feet away. I took a look down. I realized that we're a good 15 to 20 feet up, and falling that far could be a challenge. So first thing I did, formed an alliance with McGann. McGann and I had a decent relationship. So I said, all right, tell you what, if you hold me and I'll climb up on the side, then maybe I can get up there and then I can pull you up. Eventually, what we did was one person got up. We pushed Boyer up to the fourth floor, and we didn't realize how strong he was. He leaned over the side, grabbed the next person, while someone crawled up on that guy. We were holding on to that guy's clothes, and someone crawled up on him. Now, here we are. We're all on the fourth floor, getting ready to go to the fifth floor. And now it's scary because the fifth floor is almost 9 to 10 feet away from where we were. It was at that point, ladies and gentlemen, that we realized that Bayako was afraid of heights. We're on the fourth floor. We're a good 35, 40 feet off the ground, and we still got another 10 feet to go. So we did the same thing we did. Now we're working together as a team. But we still got some conflict in the team because there are two guys who refuse to talk to each other. Bayako and Chalmers. And they refuse to work together. Now, here's what happens in a team. You call yourself a team, but if you hear the old cliche that there's no I in team. There's no me personally in team. The team is about we, not about me. If you're in a relationship and it's always about you, you have to be the one who's right. You have to be the one to set the rules. You have to be the one to determine when things are done. If you decide and if you pursue that path, then what you don't have is a team. You're not necessarily a leader. Here's what a leader really is. A leader is someone who sets the vision and other people willingly follow. If you have to force people to come along with you, and if you have to fight them to come along with you, then you're more of a dictator. That's not leadership. A leader simply says, here's a direction that we're going in, here's a path we're going to take, here's the result if we get there, and let me show you how to get there. And you start. And when you lead in that regard, people will follow you because they believe in you. People will follow you because they trust in you. So what happened at that point, here we are on the fourth floor. We're now struggling. How are we going to get to the fifth floor, to the top? Our team leader pulled Chalmers aside for a little bit. They went to one side of the building. They had a private conversation. Then they came back. Didn't know what they spoke about. What they did was they said, okay, McGann, you're the tallest. So here's what we're going to do. A bunch of us are going to hold you, and we're going to have Boyer, who's the smallest and the lightest. He's going to crawl up on your shoulders, but we're going to hold you. And both of you together, you can hoist him up and you'll get him to the top floor. We did that, and so number 1 went up, number 2 went up, number 3 went up, number 4 went up, and as they went up, we're forming literally a human chain hanging over the side with a bunch of people on the 5th floor getting ready to pull up the last person. And can you guess who was the last person to get to the top? Maybe you guessed it, Bayako. He was the chubbiest of us all, he was the shortest, and he was afraid of heights. And so here we are. We decided that we were going to use McGann to lean over the side to hold him, and then once they had a good grip together, we'd pull him up. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, you wouldn't believe this. The drill sergeants were on the ground and they were screaming obscenities. They were telling us we were idiots, we couldn't make it, someone was going to die. Even when you are close to your goal, you will always have detractors. You will always have people telling you that you can't. And believe me, when you achieve your goals, ladies and gentlemen, you know what some people are going to say? You were lucky. You were at the right place at the right time. oh, it was easy for you. Oh, someone helped you. But here we were working as a team. Here we suddenly realized that getting to the top of that building individually, it would be a difficult task. But if we work together as a team, then it would be a lot easier. So still on the fourth floor was Chalmers, because he was not afraid of heights. And we were kind of wondering why he waited down on that floor with Bayako. Well, we asked him to help, but he was a little bit hesitant, so we still weren't working officially as a team. Nonetheless, McGann leaned over the side. The other 5 of us were holding him, and Bayako started that slow climb on the side, holding on to his hand. Finally, they had a grip. And when Bayako was almost up and we could see the top of his head coming over the side, something happened. The grip fell, or the grip got loose, and Bayako fell. I mean, we thought this guy was dead, because here he is fallen from the 4th floor 30 or more feet, and we thought he was dead. And so McGann screamed. We all looked over the side. We couldn't just let McGann go. By the time we pulled McGann back to the 5th floor and we all looked over the side, we didn't see Bayako on the ground. What had happened was Chalmers was still on the 4th floor, and he caught him. He caught him, and he was hanging off between the 3rd and the 4th floor. And we saw them work together, and Boyer quickly skimmed down to the 4th floor and helped Chalmers to pull Bayako up. And then we started to work as a team. Because if he wasn't there, we probably could have lost a soldier that day. And the moment he pulled him in, we realized now we got a team. And guess what? Drill sergeants stopped, because they thought this boy was going to die. And they stopped. They didn't scream anymore. They didn't yell us at anymore, because they realized we were now in a life and death situation. But when we overcame that, ladies and gentlemen, Chalmers helped Bayako up to the 5th floor. We all worked together as a team, and before you know it, we were on the 5th floor. And we did the same thing, working our way back down to ground level. Now, when we got to ground level, that's when the celebration started. But before all of that happened, there wasn't the realization or the acceptance that we could work together as a team. There was always this bickering, because there were 2 elements in our squad that just wouldn't get along. Now, here's my point in telling you the story. If you have bickering, if you have fighting in your team, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a partnership, whether it's an alliance, whether it's a business, small or large, if this is what you have, you can't expect to succeed at your optimum. It's not going to happen. You will not succeed the way you should if there's always fighting, if there's always bickering, if there's always arguments, if there's always discussion about who's in charge. If you have to always let people know that you're in charge, then you're really not in charge, because people recognize leaders for who they are. If you have to tell me over and over, well, I'm leading, you're not a leader. Accept it. And what you need to do is change. You need to make adjustments in your life that will demonstrate to others that you are the leader that you profess to be. Now, I know today was a short day, but I want you to get this, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to see this for what it really is. If you expect to succeed, you have to work together. No man is an island. You can't do things by yourself. When you hear people talk about self-made, you know what I call people who claim they're self-made? I call them selfish-made. You're not self-made. You didn't do everything by yourself. You can't be successful by yourself. You're always going to need people. And if you think you don't need people, then try. Try. You'll never succeed by yourself. So my encouragement to you today is seek not to have only the right alliance and the right relationship, but seek to be unified with people. Seek to be unified with the right people, in the sense that when you agree on something, you're speaking the same language. You have the the same purpose. As I mentioned in the book of Genesis earlier, there is a difference between language and speech. We may speak the same language, but our speech must be the same, because you may be saying something in English, but my perception, my understanding of what you're saying is different. So we have to work together. If you expect to succeed this year, you have to work together. You cannot continue to support your negative thoughts and to encourage your negative words. What do I mean by that? You say something that's wrong, you do something that's wrong, and you continue to support that position. You continue to believe and argue that position as being right. Now, if you argue for your faults, you're going to keep them. If you refuse to believe that you're wrong and to admit that you're wrong and argue for your wrong position, you will always keep them. Don't think at some point you're just going to change and be right. If you're broke and you continue to argue for your broke position, you're always going to stay broke. Because if you have a broke mentality, then you're always going to think like you're broke, you're always going to behave broke, and the result will be you will have broke habits. And you pass that on to other people. And that is sad, especially if you have young children and they watch you with certain habits. They see more of what you do, not what you say. It's kind of like dad. The garage is filthy and it needs cleaning, but you're telling your son, go clean your room. He sees what you do, not so much what you say. You lead by example. You go clean the garage and watch him clean his room. You won't have to tell him many times. So, as far as unity is concerned, if there is no unity, expect to fail. There are a number of interesting articles and stories that have been written about how the Northern Army won the war during the Civil War. How was it possible for Abraham Lincoln to unify the North, knowing that they were going to get rid of slavery, they were going to lose a humongous workforce, but still he unified the North to fight against the South, and the end was slavery was ended. You have to have a compelling argument to unify a team behind you if you are the leader that you claim to be. You need to have a compelling argument for your family to be unified behind you. Because if you have a family that does not believe in you, that doesn't trust you because of your past actions and behavior, you need to work on improving who you are so that they will trust you and follow you down the road. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I bring this broadcast to an end, keep in mind that in any relationship, unity is the glue that's going to hold things together. Now, I want to say have a fabulous Saturday. Make this a great Saturday. And as you do, please click on the share button. Please click on the like button and spread the word and let people know that we're having this program every Saturday. Have a great one.